think you're doing?
That don't besides nothing. I'm just trying to understand.
What would you do if a police officer arrested you for absolutely no reason, simply because of the color of your skin? It was Tuesday evening in downtown Minneapolis, the autumn air crisp with the first hint of winter. The concrete parking garage echoed with the sound of car doors slamming and heels clicking against pavement. Street lights were just beginning to flicker on, casting long shadows between the towering office buildings. But one person wasn't rushing home like everyone else. Maria moved with quiet purpose toward her sedan, her professional blazer exchanged for a simple cardigan, her briefcase traded for a small purse. At 52, she carried herself with understated elegance, gray threading through her natural hair, laugh lines around intelligent brown eyes, wearing jeans and comfortable flats like any working mother heading home. But what happened next would expose the ugly truth about power, prejudice, and what happens when someone picks the wrong person to mess with. Maria wasn't what most people expected when they thought of a district attorney. Born in North Minneapolis to a single mother who cleaned offices downtown, Maria had worked 3 jobs to put herself through law school. 25 years of grinding through the legal system had taught her that justice wasn't guaranteed. It had to be fought for case by case, day by day. Her morning routine started at 5 a.m. with coffee and case files. She reviewed every major prosecution personally, remembering her mother's words, "Mija, when you get power, you use it right." Maria prosecuted corrupt officials, fought for victims' rights, and had sent more dirty cops to prison than any DA in the state's history. She kept photos of every family she'd helped get justice on her office wall, over 300 faces looking back at her. Most people saw her around the courthouse in sharp suits, surrounded by staff and security. They saw the title, the authority, the power. But Maria preferred moments like this, anonymous, invisible, just another black woman trying to get home safely. She'd learned long ago that the real test of character happened when people thought no one important was watching. Officer Derek Morrison wasn't new to flexing his authority. 15 years on the Minneapolis police force had carved deep lines around his eyes and built a reputation for being tough on crime. In Morrison's mind, that meant assuming every black person in a nice car was either a drug dealer or driving stolen property. Morrison's record was a parade of complaints dismissed by his supervisors. Excessive force, racial profiling, planting evidence, but his arrest numbers were high and his sergeant liked the statistics. Morrison had learned that aggressive policing got rewarded with overtime pay and commendations, while constitutional niceties just slowed things down. The downtown beat was Morrison's territory. He knew every corner, every business owner who paid protection, every judge who'd look the other way. His squad car was his throne and his badge was his sword. After 15 years, Morrison had perfected the art of making problems disappear, especially problems that came in dark skin. Morrison carried himself like a man who'd never faced real consequences. Broad shoulders, military buzz cut, aviator sunglasses even at night. In Morrison's mind, the law was whatever he said it was, and respect was something he took by force. He'd been skating on thin ice for years, but thin ice feels solid right up until it breaks. It was exactly 7:47 p.m. when Maria reached her car, fumbling in her purse for keys. The parking garage was mostly empty now, fluorescent lights humming overhead, casting everything in harsh white light. She'd parked on the 3rd level, away from the street noise, a habit formed after too many late nights at the office. Officer Morrison was cruising the downtown streets, ostensibly looking for traffic violations, but really just enjoying the power trip of his evening patrol. His mood was sour, 3 domestic calls, 2 parking tickets, and 0 arrests to pad his numbers. That's when he spotted the black woman in the expensive-looking sedan pulling out of the executive parking area. Morrison's radar lit up immediately. High-end car, well-dressed black woman downtown after business hours. In his warped worldview, that equation always added up to something illegal. He flipped on his lights and hit the siren. Maria checked her rearview mirror, heart sinking as the familiar red and blue lights reflected off her windshield. She pulled over carefully, already reaching for her license and registration, already calculating which of her prosecutors would handle the inevitable complaint she'd have to file. Morrison approached with his hand resting casually on his weapon, his face already set in the aggressive mask he wore during stops like this. "License and registration," Morrison barked, not bothering with pleasantries or explanations. "Good evening, officer," Maria replied calmly, keeping her hands visible. "May I ask why you stopped me?" "You were speeding," Morrison lied smoothly. "License and registration now." Maria bit back her first response, that she'd been going exactly 25 in a 30 zone, and handed over her documents. Morrison barely glanced at them before launching into his real agenda. Morrison studied the license with exaggerated suspicion, holding it up to his flashlight beam like he was examining counterfeit currency. "Maria Williams, this your real name?" "Oh yes, sir, it is." "And this your car?" Maria felt the familiar mixture of rage and caution that every black person knows. "Yes, officer, the registration is right there." Morrison's eyes narrowed as he looked from the luxury sedan to Maria's simple clothes. "Funny, doesn't look like your kind of car." The racist implication hung in the air like poison gas. Maria's jaw tightened but her voice stayed level. "I work downtown, I can afford my car payments." "Work downtown doing what?" Morrison's tone carried all the skepticism of a man who decided guilt first and worked backward to evidence. "What kind of work?" "I work in the legal field," Maria replied, choosing her words carefully. She'd learned that revealing her position too early often made encounters worse. Cops didn't like being reminded that their actions had consequences. Morrison snorted. "Legal field, right? You got any warrants, any drugs in the car?" "No, sir, no warrants, no drugs, no anything. I'm just trying to get home to my family." But Morrison was already walking back to his squad car, Maria's license in hand, speaking into his radio. Maria caught fragments: suspicious vehicle, possible stolen, running plates. Other drivers were slowing down now, some pulling out phones to record. Maria sat perfectly still, hands on the steering wheel, knowing that any sudden movement could escalate things beyond repair. She could see Morrison in his car, taking far too long with a routine license check, clearly fishing for something, anything, to justify what he'd already decided to do. Morrison returned with the swagger of a man who'd convinced himself he'd found gold. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am." Maria's heart rate spiked. "Officer, why? Your check will show I have no warrants, no violations." "I said step out of the vehicle." Morrison's hand moved to his weapon. "Don't make me repeat myself." Maria complied, moving slowly and deliberately. She knew the statistics. Black women were 3 times more likely to be killed during police encounters when they were perceived as resistant. She stood beside her car, hands visible, fighting every instinct that screamed at her to assert her authority. "Turn around," hands on the cars. "Officer Morrison," Maria read his nameplate, "I need you to understand I haven't committed any crime. I was driving legally, my license and registration are valid." "You want to tell me how to do my job?" Morrison's voice rose, drawing more attention from passing pedestrians. "You think because you got a nice car you can talk back to police?" Maria took a deep breath, recognizing the moment. This was it, the point where she could either submit to injustice or stand up and face the consequences. "I'm not telling you how to do your job, I'm asking you to do your job correctly." That was Morrison's trigger. In his mind, any black person who didn't immediately cower was a threat to his authority. "That's it. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and resisting arrest." "I haven't resisted anything," Maria said firmly. "I've complied with every request." Morrison pulled out his handcuffs, his face flushed with the adrenaline of perceived victory. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. Officer Morrison, Maria's voice carried a new edge, the authority she'd been holding back finally seeping through. I strongly advise you to reconsider this course of action. Is that a threat? Morrison grabbed Maria's wrist roughly. Now you're threatening a police officer too. The small crowd of onlookers was growing. A parking garage attendant had come out to watch. Two teenagers with phones were live streaming. An elderly white couple whispered anxiously to each other. Maria could feel the moment crystallizing. This was either going to end very badly or Morrison was about to get the education of his lifetime. As Morrison reached for his second handcuff, Maria made her decision. Officer Morrison, before you make the biggest mistake of your career, I'm going to give you one last chance to walk away. Morrison laughed harshly. Career, lady, you're going to jail, nobody threatens. Maria's phone rang. Without asking permission, she answered it. This is District Attorney Williams. Morrison froze, his hand still gripping Maria's wrist. Yes, I'm currently being unlawfully detained by Officer Derek Morrison, badge number 4471, for the crime of driving while black. Maria continued into the phone, her voice carrying clearly in the suddenly silent street. I'll need internal affairs and a supervisor down here immediately. The color drained from Morrison's face. You're lying. Maria reached into her purse slowly, deliberately, and pulled out her district attorney's badge and ID. The gold shield caught the streetlight, gleaming like justice itself. District Attorney Maria Williams, she said, her voice now carrying the full weight of her office. The same district attorney who's prosecuted 14 corrupt police officers in the last 3 years. The same district attorney who sent your former colleague, Officer Jenkins, to prison for 20 years for planting evidence. Morrison's hands started shaking. The crowd was growing, phones out, recording everything. Someone shouted, "That's the DA, that's really her." This is impossible, Morrison stammered. You're nobody. I'm the nobody who's about to end your career, Maria replied calmly. I'm the nobody who's going to make sure every illegal stop you've ever made gets reviewed. I'm the nobody who's going to personally prosecute you for civil rights violations. Morrison finally released Maria's wrist, but it was too late. The damage was done, the moment captured on a dozen phones, already uploading to social media with hashtags like corrupt cop and justice served. Within minutes, 3 police supervisors arrived on scene, including Morrison's sergeant and the internal affairs captain Maria had called. The crowd had grown to over 50 people, many recognizing Maria from her frequent press conferences about police reform. District Attorney Williams, Sergeant Chen approached with obvious embarrassment. Ma'am, I am so sorry about this situation. Don't apologize to me, Maria replied, straightening her cardigan with dignity. Apologize to every innocent person Officer Morrison has harassed, profiled, and violated. I'm fine. I have power, resources, and a platform. Most of his victims don't. Morrison stood beside his squad car, looking like a man watching his world collapse in real time. His radio crackled with dispatch asking for his status, but he couldn't find words to respond. The internal affairs captain was already taking statements from witnesses. The parking garage attendant, a young black man named Kevin, stepped forward first. I seen him do this before, Kevin said, his voice carrying over the crowd. Different people, same routine, always black folks with nice cars, always makes up reasons to search them. One by one, other witnesses came forward. The teenagers with the phones, the elderly couple, a businessman who'd been walking to his car, all confirming that Maria had been completely compliant, that Morrison had escalated without cause, that this was clearly racial profiling. Morrison was officially suspended on the spot, his badge and weapon confiscated. But Maria wasn't done. "Officer Morrison," she called out as he was led away. "See you in court." 3 weeks later, Officer Derek Morrison was formally charged with civil rights violations, abuse of power, and filing false police reports. The investigation that followed revealed a pattern of behavior stretching back years. Over 40 complaints from citizens, mostly Black and Hispanic, all dismissed by supervisors who valued arrest statistics over constitutional rights. Maria personally prosecuted the case, not because she was vindictive, but because she believed in the principle that no one was above the law. During the trial, victim after victim came forward, people who'd been too scared to speak up before but found courage in Maria's example. Morrison was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison and lost his pension. 3 of his supervisors were also fired for covering up his misconduct. The Minneapolis Police Department was forced to implement new training programs and oversight mechanisms. Maria returned to her regular routine, but something had changed. The video of her arrest had gone viral, viewed over 10 million times. She received thousands of messages from people sharing their own stories of police harassment, thanking her for standing up when they couldn't. She kept one letter on her desk from Kevin, the parking garage attendant. "Thank you for showing me that justice isn't just for people with power," he wrote. "It's for all of us." The lawsuit Maria filed against the city was settled for $2 million, which she donated entirely to legal aid organizations helping victims of police misconduct. She didn't need the money, she needed the precedent. The story of Maria and Officer Morrison became a case study taught in police academies and law schools across the country. It showed how quickly assumptions based on race and class can destroy lives, and how important it is to treat every person with dignity and respect, regardless of how they look or what you think you know about them. Maria's experience reminded everyone that justice isn't automatic. It requires people to stand up, speak out, and use whatever power they have to protect those who can't protect themselves. It proved that accountability applies to everyone, from the street corner to the courthouse steps. But most importantly, it showed that in America, you never know who you're dealing with. That quiet woman in casual clothes might be someone who can change your life forever. That nobody you decide to pick on might be the somebody who brings your whole corrupt world crashing down. The next time you're tempted to judge someone by their appearance, remember Maria. The next time you witness injustice and think about staying silent, remember that your voice might be the one that changes everything. Because justice isn't just about the law, it's about recognizing the humanity in every person and standing up when that humanity is under attack. Don't forget to subscribe if you believe in justice for all. And leave a comment if you've ever witnessed something like this. Your story matters and your voice can make a difference.